So, Richard, you mentioned crime a couple different times and talking about some of the companies that are potentially leaving Illinois and the city of Chicago. Crime is a huge issue. We've talked about it a lot in this podcast. What is the immediate step there, right? Like, do you have like in the first 90 days, 180 days, whatever that is, like it's a big problem. But what are the first baby steps to getting that under control?
All right. So the first thing we got to do is repeal this law that 𝗤𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗃 just put into effect. It's called, he calls it the Safety Act, but really it's very unsafe for our state, and it's going to spiral into make the state spiral into lawlessness. It's I Hate the Police Act, what I believe it is. So this act says it really gives more credibility to criminals than it does to the victims and the police that keep us safe and do their job every day to, keep our whole community safe. There's a no bond arrest. So you get arrested, you don't have to post bond at all. No cash bail. And this goes into effect January 1st. So the criminal, a felon, breaks the law, goes in, slaps high fives the police officer and leaves right away. No holding him in jail, no consequences whatsoever. Then maybe he has to come back to court later. They give him 2 or 3 chances to even show up to court. And that same individual that just got arrested can go, based on this new law, make a complaint against the police officer that just arrested him. And it's anonymous. And this complaint stays in this police officer's jacket for the rest of his career. Now, who's going to want to be the police? No one. And in January 1st, when this no cash bail goes into effect, all the people that are in jail now, 10,000 people throughout the state of Illinois, are just going to be purged out of jail just one day, back in the community. So we're going to spiral into lawlessness. And 𝗤𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗃 signed this. So he says, I'm looking out for the criminal, the folks that are marginalized. But what about the rest of us? What about the people in the communities where those marginalized folks, criminals, are going to move back to? Many of them minority communities. Crime is going to spin even more out of control than it is now. 3 police officers were just shot just this last week. 10 police officers killed in the last year. Unheard of. So the first thing we do is recall that dangerous act that's going to, make Illinois spiral out of control. The next thing we do is we implement what we did in Aurora with what I call the 3 C's. Children, cops, community. Those are the 3 C's. Let me explain what these 3 C's are. The children, most people that commit crime are young people. So we recognizing that we got to engage our young people off the bat, right out of grade school, junior high school. Make sure they're in good programs, sports programs, after school programs. Make sure they're off the streets and in school itself. And we got to engage them to make sure they're not out breaking the law and creating mischief in the street. Let me give you an example of what we did in Aurora. Aurora was one of the most violent cities per capita in the state of Illinois. Now 𝗬𝘓𝗃 says we're the 6th safest large city in America. So we created something for the kids to do. We have a large Latino population, and we had a number of Latino gangs, the Kings, Deuces, all these gangs in the city of Aurora. And talking to these kids, they said it was like being in a family. We owed something to the family. So we created a different family. We created a junior ROTC. Now we have the largest junior ROTC unit in the nation right here in the city of Aurora. So those kids that used to join the gangs and do violent things and break the law now are marching around in uniform in junior ROTC. Same kids, marching around in ROTC. And that's just one example of the things that we created for young people to do to keep them off street and keep them engaged. So the first C is children. Second C is cops. When I say cops, I'm talking about community-oriented police officers. We got to return to the beat cop. We got to have the cop not riding around in the black and white, it's a paramilitary force waiting for something to happen, but in a neighborhood, getting to know the neighbors, getting to know the people, being proactive instead of reactive. And once they do that, the neighbor feels comfortable with them, and it becomes more like a relationship building, so the neighbor can then say, Mr. Police Officer, this is what's going on over there with little Johnny. Talk to him before he gets any more trouble. Or this is what we're hearing in the streets about, something that's going to go on that we need to stop. So the police officer infiltrates and becomes proactive and stopping crime before it even starts. So the second C is cops. Third C is community. I don't care how many people you arrest out of a neighborhood. If you don't empower the community to have an interest and a stake in their own community, even if it's a low income, if you don't empower them to take their community back and hold on to it, it's always going to revert back to lawlessness and crime. You got to have block groups that walk around making sure that, everything's okay in the neighborhood. You got to have people planting flowers, on street corners, just making sure that the neighborhood is beautified. You got to have people taking pride and stock in their community. And if you do those 3 C's, children, cops, community, and then you add economic development with jobs and opportunity, prosperity, just like that. I've seen it happen in Aurora. If we can do it in Aurora, we can do it anywhere.